Hey, how you doing? I'm Hooper, your host, one of them brothers from Inglewood podcast, coming to you live and direct from the studio with fresh and new content. I want to introduce a subject, but before I do, I want to say thanks. Thanks for all of your support. Thank you for commenting in the chat section. Thank you for all of the encouragement that you have provided thus far. I'm going to ask if you would like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button so that you'll be abreast as to every time we air something new. Now, this has been a very interesting subject that I'm getting ready to talk about or introduce. In a lot of circles, we've had many discussions, various genders and backgrounds, even ethnicities. We've talked about so many cycles and so many different things that we have experienced over the years. And I would say just most recently, I would say post COVID pandemic, but more so post pandemic. And I know that they say that we're still very much a part of the pandemic, but it has really changed a lot of things in the way that we see, process, and actually practically do things now. And one of the main things that has been, or I would just say one of the major discussions that has taken place has really been relationships, the dating process, the courtships, the marriages or the divorces, and the different challenges that we are having with interaction. And we've just been really just raising the question. I'll just speak for most of the men. Most of us, we've been really just kind of talking about like, why aren't we seeing a lot of success when it comes to relationships, comes to dating and things of that nature. Even people getting married, there's not been a large percentage of people getting married, and there has been a higher divorce rate over the span of the last 10 years. I really didn't want to bring all of the specific percentages into play, but there is a high percentage of divorce in America, right? And I just kind of wanted to just introduce the subject of pretty much, not so much relationships, but I would say issues that surround relationships. And we're really trying to discover, is there a reason why we're seeing such a decrease in couples getting together and staying together? And so the subject that I really want to kind of spring from is personality conflicts or personality disorders. Let's leave it like that. Personality disorders. And many people don't even know that they have a disorder. They don't understand why they're becoming overwhelmed mentally, emotionally, and even through their thought process. And I really believe that when I started to do some of the research, it started to, make sense as it related to why we think the way we think, why we behave the way we behave in our interaction, in the relationship itself, in the process of courtship, or some people would call it dating. I don't want to sound old fogey or like I'm living in the Stone Age, but I believe that there's a difference between dating and courtship. Many people probably won't agree. We all have our own interpretation of it, but I think a courtship is just a lot more serious and purposeful than dating. Dating to me gives more of of more range and options. Not saying that if you're in a courtship that you don't have those things, but it just seems like dating is really something that is not fully commitment. Because I know for me, if I date or if I start the dating process, I would consider myself uncommitted. I'm not monogamous with that particular person, that I have flexibility, that I'm actually trying to get to know the people that I'm encountering, whether I'm meeting them for coffee, meeting them for lunch, or just having phone conversations or Zoom or social media, texting or whatever. That is pretty much a situation where I'm just kind of in the evaluation stage. I'm just trying to see if there's chemistry, if I want to commit, if this is even worth going any further than what it is, And so a lot of people, they don't look at it like that, especially women. Women feel like if, they're going out with you, you're their man. But I don't know. I just think that courtship is pretty much when you get to that place where you actually say to one another, hey, I want to be monogamous. I want to pursue a relationship with you. I want to get to know you at a higher pace or at a higher level. And these are some of the things I'm interested in doing. This is what I foresee in the future, so on and so on. So I think in a courtship, you have kind of laid down some things where you want to work towards. In the dating process, you might go out with Tim this Friday and then go out with Vincent next Friday, or you may talk to Charles this particular day. You might talk to Darren. Whatever the case may be, you have more freedom, more range. You're non-committed in a sense. And so that gives you a lot more flexibility. So laying that foundation, I want to ask you, and you can put it in the chat, you can kind of chime in on this. I'm going to ask you, is it more feasible and convenient for you to date, to court, or to get married? I think these are all three things that are important, and I think the first two leads up to possible marriage, right? I don't think we meet a person, a stranger, or meet someone through a recommendation or a blind date, and we automatically say, hey, this is the person I want to marry. This is my wife, or this is my potential husband, and I'm going all in from this point on. I think that there is a dating period. There is a process of getting to know one another, and in that process, we become more acquainted. So with that being established, let's get to why people aren't really making it in relationships, in partnerships, socially. Why has it been such a, I would say, non-productive process? Why are we not clicking? Is it personality conflict or personality disorder? Is it deeper than just having no chemistry, having no compatibility? Because I believe all relationships, whether they're business relationships, social, romantic, all relationships, parental relationships, sibling relationships with family, with cousins, I believe all relationships are valid. And all relationships need a certain amount of attention, a certain amount of care, nurturing, and purpose, okay? So parental guidance sort of lays a foundation for all of us, especially in our adolescence, okay? What we became sometimes is what we saw, what we rehearsed, what we learned early in adolescence. Some things were positive, some things were negative. However, I had taken a course before, and it really talked about relationships. Many of you have probably had sociology, okay? So in sociology, there are so many realistic, relevant experiences that you usually discuss, and there's so much literature that really talks about the past, brings you up to the present, and will lead you into the future. And so in this sociology class, we dealt with numerous topics. We discussed numerous things that really transpire in life. And so I've come to realize in today's 21st century, I see a lot of people falling back from interaction. They are not really that interested in coming together and creating something as a unit, as a partner. They seem to be more secluded, standoffish, more concerned about how to get to the next level in their life, and they're not really willing to incorporate like we saw in the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s. We already know back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s, families were coming together. They were being created from a foundational standpoint. But I just think that what has really been the conversation, especially as of late, was how we get along or fail to get along in relationships, all facets of the relationship. I just forestated, I'm not gonna be redundant and go through the different categories of relationships, but I really do want to hone in on I think personality disorders. I want to deal with the mental issues that really transpire from some of the childhood trauma and the things that have taken place in our lives that has really created, I would say, fear, insecurity, reluctancy, even anxiety. You got a lot of people who are really troubled when it comes to coming together with someone else. A lot of times we see in our careers that we're finding ourselves working alone. We're kind of working at home in our own space. The work assignments are different. A lot of people are not in the office anymore like they used to be, or they're going to the office 2 times a week or maybe 3 times a week. And I think it has done something with our human interaction, okay? We've already saw this drop off with the children. Since technology has advanced, we see a lot of kids on the phone, they're texting, they're watching videos, they're sharing through chats and all of these different things. And there's not a lot of social development. Our children are not experiencing the pureness of child development anymore because a lot of these other things have been taken, not just taken away, but it's been replaced. You know, we have a lot of modern technology that has truly made some concessions for a lot of things. But I want to kind of read something about personality disorders that we may overlook. We don't see ourselves having this type of trouble or issue, but it really leads into conflict. It leads into disagreements. It leads into misunderstandings. And I don't want to say that the majority of us are experiencing mental illness, but I will say that a lot of our childhood trauma, post-trauma, has really been a hindrance for us moving forward in a positive way in relationships. And so there are different expressions of personality disorder. There are a lot of characteristics of it, and I think I'm not a clinical therapist, so I'm not trying to psychoanalyze anybody. I'm not trying to play doctor. I'm just really saying that there is something greater in our relationship disparity than what meets the eye. And we need to find solutions to get back to a family-oriented and regimented state of being. It has affected us in business. It has affected us socially. It has affected us as couples. It has affected us in so many ways to where we have to find positive solutions. And there is something that really shocked me when I started to have these conversations with friends, with colleagues, and even people that I didn't know, strangers. I was having conversations with people that I didn't grow up with them, I didn't work with them, I didn't share the same community with them. I didn't even have the same ethnicity with these different people. And so when you started to talk to them and you started to see percentage-wise how many people are affected by what they've experienced in the past and where they are now, it's sort of, it's depressing. It's surprising, but it's also depressing. And I'm not promoting depression, but I'm just saying it is heartfelt. There is a surprising and alarming estimate of 9% of adults in the U.S. that cope with personality disorders. 9% of those in the U.S. who cope with personality disorders. Do I believe that we're all different? Yes. Do I believe that we all have our own personalities? Of course. Do I believe that we may share some or similar characteristics? Yes. But that doesn't make us the same personality or the same individual. We're all individuals. And I'm just thinking, like, how do we get back to normalcy? Can we get back to normalcy? And if so, when will it happen? I think we've been through so much in our lives, or we lacked experience in relationships to where we've become complacent. We're comfortable where we are. We're comfortable with what we're doing. We don't see anything wrong because my life is my life. I do what I do. And I've seen this in my own personal life. I've seen this in the life of my family. I've seen us function just on the surface and ignore some of the deep-rooted issues that we might have, not only with ourselves, but with other people. But we go through the motion, or we go through the withdrawal, and it comes out in very negative ways. What we're really feeling on the inside is suppressed, and then there's always something that's a trigger, and then we explode, or we act out of character, and we wonder, where did all that come from? I believe it was always there. It never left because we didn't deal with it. And I believe that, because I believe the disorder is the way that we mentally process things. It's our thought process. It's our ability or inability to reason things out. Some people, they shut down, they get quiet, they don't say anything. I've been that person. I can be that person. I can get to a place in my life or in a situation where I'll shut down if I don't think that it can be reasoned. If I don't think that we can reach some type of conclusion. It's not about an agreement, because I can disagree without being disagreeable. So I'm not going to be argumentative because you don't agree with me. I'm not going to try and make you feel a certain way, or try to persuade you or coerce you to feel the way I feel or see it the way I see it. I'm not going to do you like that. I think people become manipulative. They become narcissistic when we can't get someone to agree with us. Then it gets really sketchy. It gets really intentional. And I'm not saying that, because a narcissist is one of the worst characteristics that one can possess. And we've heard it mentioned so many times about former President Trump and some of the other politicians, but those are not the only ones who deal with that disorder. And so I just think that when we begin to evaluate why couples aren't staying together, why couples are not finding a solid medium, why couples aren't getting married, taking their relationship to the next level, why have we become older and more complacent and settled with being, I don't want to say by ourselves. In actuality, if you're not sharing life with someone, then obviously you're physically by yourself. But some people have grown to enjoy that. That's choice. And I'm not taking away anyone's freedom of choice. I'm just saying that, shouldn't we be able to do more together than we do individually? Is it so difficult for us to find companionship, friendship, love, romance? Why has it become so difficult? why are these things falling apart? Why do they start off pretty cool and then they just flicker? They just go away. Is it because someone is trying to control the narrative, or is it that someone is being selfish, or they're centered on what they can get out of it, and it's all about them versus the team? And so when I sit down and talk with some brothers, and I know some really solid brothers, and I'm listening to them, I'm listening to their heart, and they're really trying to figure this out. My whole thing was always, stop trying to figure out a woman, because Adam was asleep when God created and formed woman. A deep sleep fell upon Adam. So when this process was taking place, Adam was unconscious. He was, pretty much incapacitated. So we don't know everything that God has placed in our women. However, we can learn what's in our women by them being the first teacher and teaching us and showing us. Because if the truth be told, we were all those who had the privilege of being raised by their biological mother, or by their adopted mother, or some relative that ended up raising them in their infancy. Hopefully we've all noticed that it was that woman that began to teach us, and who became our first teacher. And so I just think that when you start looking at the percentage of Americans who are affected, and American adults who have been affected by these disorders, or had to cope with certain personality disorders, you'll then start to understand why a lot of people haven't stayed together, why they're having issues and trouble trying to make it actually happen. I'm gonna do a part 2 to this, so hopefully this is just laying the foundation as to generating questions and feedback as it relates to how we can better the situation. Is it gonna have to be through medicine? Is it gonna have to be through therapy? Is it gonna have to be through communication? Is it gonna have to be through interaction? Whatever the finality or the process is to reach a finality, we have to meet those things head on. We have to find resources. We have to see where we are. Not just kind of talk about it, setting goals. We have to do a complete diagnostic, something to evaluate us and find out if we have these deep-seated issues that are so overwhelming and conflicting that we aren't able to successfully interact and succeed in relationships. So thank you for listening. Thank you for chiming in. I want you to, again, like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button so that we can bring you fresh and new content on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so this has, as always, been a great time and moment to share with you. This car is coming to a stop, and we're going to be back, and hopefully we'll be more informative and we can get to the next phase of this subject, dealing with personality disorders. And so I look forward to speaking with you and sharing with you again. Take care. I'll see you soon. Peace.